But my RB7, since yours is DeAndre Swift, mine's Joe Mixon.
We're right there. He's my 8.
Because Joe Mixon had a career year last year after being finishing healthy for the first time in recent memory, maybe ever.
Put it all together.
Maybe ever. Was it his healthiest season?
His sophomore season was pretty healthy. But that was 3 years ago. His sophomore season was pretty healthy, and then his third and fourth seasons were he dealt with some injuries.
Yeah, he was RB5 in fantasy points per game last year. He's never been the most efficient running back in the league, but he's always been dealing with terrible O-lines.
Awful teams.
I mean, you look at his yards per carry over the past 3 seasons, 4.1 in 2019, 3.6 in 2020, and 4.1 in 2021. He now finally gets the best O-line of his career. He now finally has the building blocks of running behind a great line for literally the first time in a to this point, 5-year career.
4.1
so efficiency-wise, he should
have
have the best efficiency running the ball year of his career. Another year with Burrow, third year with Burrow, second year with Jamar Chase. I mean, T. Higgins. This offense is one of the best offenses in the league.
Zach
best
Taylor's
young offenses in the league.
Play caller. They got. I believe in their coaching staff.
He's never been run into the ground like these other running backs.
No.
I mean, his high is 292 rush attempts, which is what he got last season.
That was last season. How many catches did he have?
42 receptions, which was the second most of his career.
So he
16
did go over 300
touchdowns.
Carries.
That was the big number last year. He had never had more than 9 in a year. 16 touchdowns. If this is what he was, or if 2021 was his Dalvin Cook 3 years ago year, then he has one more year of elite production. We typically see these years of elite production for running backs be like 2 years of elite production for these workhorse running backs. There's like a steady incline if they're not the ones that fire right away. Steady incline, 2 years of production, and then either a steep cliff or a slow incline from there. To me, Joe Mixon is going into his second career season, and then we might see a little bit of a dip from there. But playing in the best offense of his career, with the best O-line projected of his career, maybe best overall team of his career, catching more passes than ever before. And last year, if you remember, in the most important game they played last year, they weirdly went away from him in the fourth quarter. And that was something they got lambasted for. They are not going to do that again. They're going to be using Joe Mixon probably like he's never been used before, even last season. More efficient, more of a workload, entering what I believe to be his second opportunity for a career year.
With a good offense. Look what good offensive personnel around you does for a player.
Yeah, I mean Joe Mixon RB7 for me.
I love Mixon, man. I've been a big Mixon supporter for. I wasn't big on him his rookie season, but after that, I mean, the efficiency metrics dating back to college was the proof in the pudding. One of the best yards created. Shout out to the great Graham Barfield. One of the best pure creators of yards, regardless of the personnel around him, since the metrics started being tracked. I mean, 4.1 yards per carry behind what he was running behind it would be 4.6, 4.7 yards.
It would be 5.1, dude.
Carry. Anywhere else.
It would be 5.1 on half of the teams in the NFL.
Anywhere else, yeah. The 16 touchdowns is, we got to expect some maybe negative touchdown progression or some regression this year. It's hard to duplicate that number. I'm not saying he'll score 6, but that is a lofty number that's hard to replicate. Just want to caveat that. But what you said, 42 catches last year?
Yeah.
There's no reason he can't catch 50 balls. There's no reason. Here's the reason. Here's the only reason. They love playing Samaje Perine on third down, which is obviously completely out of Mixon's hands. So that's a little annoying. But again, that's a factor that has nothing to do with Mixon himself. Here's my only sort of drawback. And again, this has nothing to do with Mixon. It has everything to do with the Bengals as a whole. We have seen a common trend where the team that loses the Super Bowl the following year goes through some lull periods. We even saw it with the Kansas City Chiefs the high and mighty Kansas City Chiefs offense. Obviously, as a team, they still made it to the AFC Championship game. But do you remember in the middle of the season last year, there was a stretch where everybody was rightfully asking, what's wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah.
So is there some natural team regression, performance regression from the Bengals as a result of losing the Super Bowl? I think that's a very fair concern to have. So could there be some lull periods during the season where the Bengals offense as a whole struggles and Mixon is collateral damage as a result? I do think that's a concern, and that's why I have some other players like a DeAndre Swift over Mixon. He's still my RB8. I love the talent. The offensive line is easily the best he's had over the course of his career, so he's got that going for him. And Joe Burrow is if there's a short list of quarterbacks where whether you lose the Super Bowl or whatever the following season, you're still confident in their abilities as a player and as a leader. I think Joe Burrow is that type of guy. But, I mean, I would put Patrick Mahomes in the same tier. And he had a stretch of games where he wasn't throwing for more than one touchdown a game last year. So that's my only drawback. So my only concerns have nothing to do with Mixon himself, outside of the potential negative touchdown regression, because 16 touchdowns is a lofty number. I think RB8 is fair. We have seen him finish as a mid-tier RB1. I would maybe put him on the lower tier RB1 spectrum this year because of that baked-in concern that I have about the Bengals offense maybe going through some lumps next year. But that's all. That's it.
I mean, I tend to think that the regression, if any, in this offense due to any Super Bowl hangover or whatever, if you're really superstitious like that, comes with the wide receivers, not necessarily the running backs.
I mean,
the wide receivers, Jamar Chase, wide receiver 5 in points per game, T. Higgins, wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game. Like, those are lofty numbers. Not a lot of quarterbacks can sustain 2 top 12 wide receivers in points per game 2 years running. Kirk did it once. Jameis did it once. Like, it's not something that happens. I think Tom Brady did it once, in points per game at least, not points by the end of the season, but
not
points
like
per game
finish,
with Evans and Godwin
overall.
And points per game. Right. It's not something that usually carries over from year to year, even if you don't win the Super Bowl. But the one thing that is a consistent rock for this offense, it's Joe Mixon. He should get more work, or they should have more confidence thrown his way because of what happened in the Super Bowl last year. Yeah. If anything, with him not being played late into the game when they technically still had a chance. It was just a weird thing. I don't think they make that mistake. They make a point to go away from making those types of mistakes moving forward. A teachable moment for them, like the Seahawks not rushing the ball with Marshawn Lynch on the first yard line. They went more run heavy in years following that, even though the rest of the NFL went the other way. I think the same thing might, not to the same extent, but this same type of thought process might happen with the Bengals with respect to Mixon. I think Mixon gets more work, and they have a worse receiving tight end who will affect the short to intermediate pass game. Hayden Hurst is worse from a receiving perspective than C.J. Uzomah. C.J. Uzomah is one of the better receiving specific tight ends in the league. Hayden Hurst is more of a do everything, can block, can catch passes type of guy, but he offers a little bit less in the receiving area. So some of that work might go to Tyler Boyd. Some of that work will probably get split up between the stud or wide receivers, but some of that will probably go to Mixon as well. So
trickles down to Mixon.
Might have the most reception of his career. I wouldn't like to your
that
point.
I
wouldn't
can
be surprised
absolutely believe.
for him getting 50 receptions. So
that
Joe Mixon
I can
RB7, DeAndre Swift for me RB8,
and I have that flip flopped.
Okay,
so we're on the same page as far as who the names are in our top 8 so far. Just a couple of flip flops here and there. The biggest discrepancy being, I guess, Dalvin Cook versus Najee Harris. But yeah, I got Swift 7, Mixon 8. You have Mixon 7, Swift 8.